Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because after 15 years, they finally brought us an animated wasp toy. Yes, this little guy from the animated cartoon was due to get a figure back in 2010, but sadly it was summarily cancelled right at the end of the line, leaving fans of the show a little bit in limbo in terms of how to represent this guy in their collection. And sure, there was the kind of mutated version of Waspinator released at the time, but still his original form was always one that kind of felt like it was missing from that toy line, so this is truly exciting to see at long last. Props to Hasbro for even giving this toy the same Fugitive Waspinator title as that cancelled 2010 toy. Someone knows their stuff. Anyway, I can't wait to check it out, and this review is of course brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site down in the description below, and you can go ahead and check them out for all your Transformers needs. Honestly, 15 years. I know they always say that the best things come to those who wait, but you know, it's always nice when that turns out to be true, isn't it? It's especially good for me because I never actually picked up this Legacy animated Bumblebee, so I'm excited for this one. Of course, then we got a little bag of bits of accessories and things like that. What's it gonna be? Got his little stingers and things in here, I think. There we go. And then out of the box we have the little guy himself, and this is so weird to see after all of these years. Here he is at last, Wasp in his kind of original form, pre-Waspinator form, despite what the name might be on the box, and it just looks great. He's so tiny. I'm just really blown away by how cute this thing looks. I mean, you know, not gonna lie, for my first experience of this mold, it's definitely a little bit of a surprise how teeny tiny it is. I have heard that many times before about the Bumblebee version. You know, people have always been saying how small it is, and I have seen some comparison pictures and everything, but once you get it in hand, it's still a great surprise. You know, it really, really is. But I don't mind that. You know, I know it's a deluxe, and people are going to have that whole thing about the price point and it being a smaller size for the same price or whatever, but you know, if the complexity's there and the engineering's there and it's a fun toy, I'm for that personally. Like, I don't think it doesn't all have to be about size, right? Because, you know, the other option is that you get an oversized version of this character, which I really wouldn't want. I think he needs to be small and it suits the character better, or you get a much more simplified, like Legends class version or something like that, you know, core class, whatever. And I wouldn't really want that either, so I'm happy with this. Honestly, I think he looks absolutely spot on. Let's talk about their head sculpt first of all, because it is a very close approximation to the cartoon, but beyond that, I just absolutely adore the style of it. Those little purple eyes, the paint on the head crest and things like this, it's all really nice and vibrant. I love the kind of saturation and the colours that they've gone with, and I just think it looks superb. Really, really good job. It's sort of hard to see the little Decepticon logo just there because it's not white backed or anything, so, and it is a little bit of a flourish in a sense, a little bit of an embellishment because he wasn't strictly speaking a Decepticon in this guise in the cartoon, so a bit of a weird one, but it's got this little black stripe as well, so that's quite nice. First impressions also that this feels very solid, really nice and kind of dense. I don't know, it is a little toy, but it feels good. I mean, it feels really well made. Now, it does have a little bit of a backpack going on, but honestly, I really don't mind it. I think he cleans up pretty well. Bit of car kibble on the back there, but it's not so bad, honestly. I think it's a great silhouette for him. Articulation-wise, there's quite a bit to say as well. I mean, the head will move fairly freely from side to side. It's quite stiff, actually, but it will move and can look up and down quite nicely as well. Now, as has been quite widely advertised, the shoulders on this mold are indeed a bit of an oddity because you've actually got several joints in there. Firstly, they do hinge on the one joint from side to side, sort of up and down like that, and then it's a completely separate joint just inside at the front here which controls the forward motion, so it actually hinges on this little pin just there, and that is a little bit strange, not gonna lie. It's a bit of a weird one. I mean, it's not like Rat Trap, you know, Kingdom Rat Trap oddity, you know, it's not that level of weirdness, but it's still, it just kind of takes a little minute to get used to, I guess, especially as then the bicep has a separate hinge that you can see just there, and that swings forward completely independently of it. So I don't know, it's one of those where if you get it in kind of the wrong orientation, it can look a little bit weird like that. It looks a little bit disjointed, but with a bit of proper posing, you should be fine, I think. Like, I don't know, I've heard so much discourse about these shoulders, I've read a lot about it, you know, people really kind of grumbling about it and whatever. In hand, yeah, it is a little bit strange, but it doesn't offend me or anything. Like, it's just fine. I don't know, it's not... Maybe it could have been done a little bit different, but it's not the end of the world, certainly. And there is a bicep rotation as well, as you can see just there. And then nothing in the hands, that's all static. Oh no, I'm lying. There is a wrist swivel. I'm quite impressed by that, actually. There is a waist swivel though, so that's really good. And then you do get a bit of decent articulation at the hips and in the legs. I mean, the hips will go all the way up, so that's really nice. And then you get a bit of thigh rotation in there as well, because of that little mushroom peg. And then you do get fairly decent bend at the knees, well past 90 degrees, so that's good. For me, actually, it's the feet more than the shoulders that are a bit of a weird one. I mean, firstly, you do get a bit of a rock just there, back and forth, so that's quite nice. And you've got little independent heels as well, so that's all good. But it's the ankle tilt which is a little bit strange, because the ankle tilt sort of meets this bit of resistance just there. We actually have to kind of force it a little bit, and then it kind of clicks past because of there's a little bit of clearance issue just there. And it does mean that you either have it in a sort of very neutral stance like so, or you got to kind of click it, and then the ankle tilt is sort of at that angle. And it's decent, but it would be nice if it was a little bit more free, you know? So that is a little bit of a weird one. But, you know, all told, I really think it's superb. Very nicely articulated on the whole. A lot more than I would have thought, actually, for a figure of this size. Very stable as well. He's great fun to pose. I don't have an issue with those shoulders as they are. They're a bit quirky, but honestly, the results kind of speak for itself. It's really good. Then you've got his little accessories. Now, he's got these rocket boosters, which can kind of work in the car mode, but he's also got these stinger pieces. And actually, it took me a minute. I had to look it up in the instructions, of course, but you want to attach the end of the stinger into the rocket booster like so, and that actually makes his little handheld weapons like that. Looks really nice. Then of course you can just go ahead and place that directly in his palm, and that looks really good when done. It's quite nice that they use that sort of translucent purple for the little rocket boosters. There's some nice grey paint on there as well, some little purple highlights on the stingers themselves, so they look great when they're in hand. Now, given they are his rocket boosters, you can then actually plug them into his backpack as well, like so he can sort of jet off and do his thing, I guess. Alternatively, you can actually combine the two stinger halves, which is something, so you just kind of plug them together like so, and then you can make it work with the hands, but you need to slightly de-transform them first, just as you would for car mode. So you just fold this little panel up and then actually fold the hand inside and just close that up again, rotate the hand, and then once you've done that on both sides, you just want to bring the arms up and kind of fold them in slightly like that to kind of meet in the middle, so that this bit is flat just there. And that's because you want these two peg holes sitting flat like that, because that's where the stinger is going to plug in. And this is a wee bit fiddly, not going to lie, but you might want to do one and then the other. Just going to get that all tabbed in, and there we go, double stinger weapon. And it's a nifty little thing, and again, for the kind of scale of the toy that we're talking about here, it's nice to have a little feature like this. It's a little bit of play value, isn't it, at the end of the day? Mostly though, I think I'll probably just stick with having the stingers attached to the rocket boosters, because I do think that looks kind of cool, and it's probably just my preference for how to display him overall. And you know, as I say, I'm really impressed with this robot mode so far. I'm digging it quite a bit, actually. This is worth a 15-year wait, dare I say. Now, in terms of comparisons here, you can see him with a smattering of recent Generations bots. Some of you may have noticed I've been on a bit of a Generations kick of late, so here's just some random bots, really. That's it. You know, just throwing them in for a few size comparisons, you know, see how it shapes up. And he's definitely quite small, as I say. Even for a deluxe, he's small, absolutely. And some people are going to have something to say about that. As I mentioned earlier, it really does not bother me one jot. I'm all up for variance in scale in these figures, particularly if, you know, smaller means a little bit more kind of complexity and like a more solid build. I think that's a decent trade-off, personally, and in this case it works. In a way, though, it's even more interesting to compare him to some classic animated figures from the time that the original toy would have been released. And here you've got the Voyager Optimus Prime mold, you've got Sentinel Prime as well, and then you've got the Leader Class Bulkhead. And honestly, I think he looks terrific versus these guys. It's so weird, because it's obviously not that original mold in any way, shape or form, but it kind of is like a window into the past somehow. And he fits pretty well, actually. Like, stylistically, it's a little bit different. Obviously, it's not like pure classic animated from that era, but it's good enough. You know, it's a good approximation, and yeah, I'm digging it. And then for a really fun comparison, here you have him with the classic animated Activators Bumblebee, which was a little one-step toy from the time, and I always thought was teeny tiny, but here you can see that Wasp, and of course the animated Bumblebee Legacy mold, is smaller, which is so strange, because actually the deluxe toy that was cancelled, that original Fugitive Waspinator re-release, that repaint, was much larger, you know, so it's weird to consider that actually this new version of it, this new take, is significantly smaller than the original would have been, but these two look great together in my opinion. As a random aside, if you've never come across this animated Activator Bumblebee, it's great fun. I mean, to transform it, all you do is press the little button on the roof, and lo and behold, there he is. But in a way, the fact that this new figure is the same size as a classic one-step, you know, which I'm not saying that makes one-steps more simple or anything, you know, there's some quite complicated engineering involved in just having that one-step gimmick, but the fact that actually this new toy packs in like a full transformation and lots of other things besides it's quite something actually. Like, I really think it's quite an achievement. So people can kind of balk at the smaller scale of this thing for a deluxe or whatever, but actually I think you're really getting your money's worth in just like a smaller package. That's my perception anyway, and it's really, really impressive so far. But I guess we've got to see Transformation to really judge that properly, so let's check it out. There we go, transformation done, and actually I really enjoyed that. It's kind of fun. It's a wee bit fiddly in one or two places, but honestly, again, for the size of this thing, it packs in quite a lot, and it's enjoyable. Probably the most complex bit is finagling those arms into the sides there and getting it all lined up flush. I'm not convinced I've quite got it 100%. I think I could probably perfect it a little bit with more time, which I'll do later, but yeah, it's not too bad, honestly. There's the kind of suggestion of tabs around the side here, and then it's a little bit weird with like the shoulders and everything all kind of need to be very neatly lined up to make it work, but still, on the whole, plenty to enjoy here. I really think it's quite clever, and honestly, the result is pretty legitimately great. I mean, first of all, it's teeny tiny, make no mistake, it's really small, very cute, but also it kind of looks like a toy that would have existed at the time. Like, anybody kind of critiquing this for bits and bobs that they may not think are perfect, this is basically an animated toy in many, many regards. I don't know. I mean, it rolls really nice. It's pretty stable. It's well put together. So again, you know, I kind of could get it a little bit more perfect, I think. But generally, it does exactly what it needs to do. It's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've got kind of an obvious hinge on the side just here, and then a little 5mm port just down there. So maybe people will critique that if they're feeling particularly harsh. And I guess you could also grumble about this little lighter green panel just there, kind of breaking up the more uniform darker green. I don't know. But honestly, even taking those bits into account, I feel like I'm really looking for things to critique here, because honestly, I like this a lot. I mean, there's some nice little red paint here for the little siren on top, so that's kind of cool. Colors look great overall. What's not to like? Now, there is some translucent purple for the windows just there that you can see, and I guess that could be a little bit brighter. It does catch the light from the right angles, but from the wrong angles it just kind of looks black, so I guess that is, you know, that could be a little bit brighter. That might be a little critique that you might have. I do like these wheels though. I think they are pretty perfect, because we've had these kind of clipped on wheels for a little while, and we're kind of seemingly back to pins now, which is great. And actually, I had to check that these weren't rubber tires. They're not, but they absolutely look like they could be. So the style of the wheels, such a silly point, but they look fantastic, particularly again for a toy of this size. And honestly, by and large, this just feels very cohesive. I mean, it's neat and tidy, it does exactly what it needs to do. It's just a great fun alt mode, you know? Again, I absolutely think I can get it a little bit more flush, so you've got slightly less of a gap in that roof just there. I'll have to fiddle with that a little bit later. I think there's a bit of obstruction just going on in the middle here, so there's a little bit more work to be done for me here, but yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, again, if I was to bring in that animated Activators Bumblebee toy from earlier, you can kind of see what I'm saying, that I feel like the style is here. I think it's going to fit in fairly nicely with your classic animated toys as much as it will with legacy stuff, so that's really cool. You can also add those stinger accessories onto those little ports on the side, just like that, so he's got his little jet boosters going on there, so that looks really cool. Honestly, it's a nice little callback to the cartoon. I guess maybe it's more Bumblebee than Wasp, I don't know, but still, it's fun to see here. Alternatively, you could plug them in like so and kind of have them like little weapons facing the front, so that's an option. Overall though, I'm just really charmed with this thing. Honestly, great transformation, really good robot mode, fantastic car mode, couple of nice gimmicks, you know, the size of it is cool. Ultimately, what's not to like? I've got no real grumbles, other than maybe the ankle tilt. I think that's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit curious. But, you know, generally speaking, it's worth the wait, the 15-year wait. It's the animated Wasp toy that never was in many ways, and it's absolutely a toot. Now, as I mentioned before, this review is brought to you by TF Source. You'll find a link to their site in the description below, and you can go ahead and check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for this video, please, but otherwise, that's it from me. So have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.